Hello and welcome to our discussion today. Today, we want to look at pricing strategies. We want to discuss pricing strategies. And by the end of this discussion, you should be able to examine pricing methods. You should also be able to identify factors which affect pricing and pricing policies, while emphasizing their role in strategy and ethical considerations. Okay, so that's what we want to quickly look at today. Um, Pricing, we said, is an element of the marketing mix. Okay, price is the monetary value that a customer pays to acquire a product or a service. So a product should have an exchange value. Remember, we said that. So the price you put on the product that the consumer pays to acquire a product or the service is what you call the second factor of the marketing mix, pricing. Okay. A price is the amount of money changed for a product, or sorry, the price is the amount of money charged for a product or a service. The sum of the values that the customers exchange for the benefits of having or using the product or the service is what we call the price. Okay. So the second component of the marketing mix, which is the price, is the only P in the marketing mix that generates revenue. What it means is that all the other P's represent costs they take from the organization. Only the price element generates revenue. Um, Pricing also affects how customers perceive quality and value. All right. We have come to terms with the fact that depending on how expensive an item is, in our minds, we would say if the item is of a high quality or not. Okay. So the pricing element influences customer perceptions. And then pricing also defines a brand's position. It makes people, or it makes the consumer know whether the brand is an affordable one or it's a luxurious brand, depending on the price that is quoted. And then pricing also is a critical tool for competing on the market. Okay, so pricing can be used to gain competitive advantage on the market. So what are some of the factors which influence price decisions? Okay. So before you be able to fix your price, one of the factors that influence this is the cost. Okay, the cost of coming up with your products. You can have the fixed cost, the variable cost, and then together you have the total cost. So these costs will influence the price at which you sell the final product. Okay. And it also depends on your break-even analysis that has been done. And this break-even analysis determines the price required to cover costs and achieve profitability. So you'd want to know at what point you would have covered all your costs and that you would have started to make profit. Okay, so the cost is a factor that influences price decision. Another factor that influences price decision is the demand. Okay, so you know that when demand is high, sometimes it can affect the price. Okay, so you can have the elasticity of demand where if it is elastic, where demand is elastic, then it means that the market is sensitive to price, so that an increase or decrease in price can affect demand. Okay. And if the market is inelastic, or if demand is inelastic, what it means is that the customers are less sensitive to price changes. So whether there's a change in price or not, it will not affect the demand. Okay. Another factor that influences price decision is the competition. Okay. The nature of the market within which you operate would determine how you price your product. If you have a monopoly, if you have oligopoly, if you have a perfect competition, all of these will affect how you price your products. We discussed this in the very first and second lecture. So if you have forgotten, please go back. Okay. So the nature of the competition, or the nature of the market, or your market structure would also influence the price decision. And then you have other factors like legal frameworks, the regulatory frameworks, the customer demographics, and then purchasing power. Okay, we found these in the external environment. All of these affect the pricing decision. Okay. So there are some methods of pricing based on the factors we have identified. The first is cost-based pricing. The cost-based pricing is pricing that is based on the cost of production. So you look at all that you spent while you were coming up with a product, okay? And then based on that, you add a markup. And that markup, together with your cost, becomes the price at which you sell your product. And this one is most common in manufacturing firms. Then we have the demand-based pricing. And demand-based pricing is based on perceived customer demand and the customer's willingness to pay. So some of these, for example, Bolt or Yango, there are times there's a surge. Okay, so when the app notices that there's a surge at some area, or the demand has gone up in a particular area, you notice that the pricing for the transportation cost also goes high. Okay, so an example is the surge pricing that Uber or Bolt or Yango uses when there's a high demand. Okay, and then you have the competition-based pricing, and this is based on what competitors are doing. So if you are selling your product for 30 cedis and competitor says we are selling ours for 25 cedis, you may be forced to reduce your price so that you will not get out of business. Okay, so you look at what competition is doing, and then you also maybe do the same, or maybe do a lesser one, or you ensure that the difference is not so much. Otherwise, you may lose your customer to the competitor. Okay. Then we look at some policies and strategies in pricing. The first policy, or the first strategy, is the penetration pricing. The penetration pricing sets a low initial price to enter a competitive market so that they will gain the market share. All right. So with penetrative pricing, if you come up with a new product, you may not necessarily have to price it high. You look at what competition is doing, and then based on the lead price on the market, you set your price to a much lower one so that you can get into the market, all right, and have people buy from you because of the lower price that you have set for your product. Then there is skimming pricing, where you set a high initial price for a unique product, okay, so that the high class people who are in that segment will feel like they are the only ones who are using your product. Okay, and then as time goes on, you lower the price. But by the time you lower the price, you would have got what you are looking for. So skimming and penetration are kind of opposite, right? Penetration, you set a low initial price to enter a competitive market and gain market share. With the skimming pricing, you have a unique product. And then with your unique product, you set a high initial price that will help you to appeal to a special class of people in the society. And then as time goes on, you now reduce the product, or you now reduce the price over time. You also have the psychological pricing, okay, which is based on emotional triggers. And we see a lot of this when you go to the supermarkets. Okay, so the 0.99 and all of those, they are psychological pricing. It makes you feel that the item is actually lower. When if you look at it well, you realize that the difference is just little. Okay, so that's the psychological pricing. And these strategies you can use to price your product. So we have looked at product mix, and we have said that for organizations, you realize that they are not in most cases dealing with one product. Okay, so for a typical organization, they have more than one. So we talk of the product mix. So how then do we price, or what are some of the ways to price when you have a product mix? Okay. So the first one we look at is the product line pricing. The product line pricing sets the price between various products in a product line based on cost differences between the products, customer evaluations of different features, and then competitors' prices. Okay, so what this does is to look at the costs. Okay, the cost of the various products. Okay, the differences between the various products. All right, then you also factor in the evaluations of your customers, okay, of the different features of the product, okay, and then the competitors' prices. All of these together will help you come up with the product line pricing. Then you have optional product pricing, okay. So the optional product pricing is where you price your so if there's let's say an optional product or an accessory, okay, what it means is that if you are selling the main product, you try to factor in the price of the optional product into the main product, so the main product goes together with the optional product. All right, then you have the captive product pricing, where you set a price for products that must be used along with the main product. So this one is not optional. You actually need the other product together with the main product you're buying. And so in essence, they need the two or the three to work together. And so as you price the main product, you add the other ones to it. So you price the products together. All right. Then you have byproduct pricing, where there's a certain, or where you set price for the product to make the main product price more competitive. Okay, so there are byproducts of the main products that you have. Okay, so byproducts can be in the form of, some byproducts are seen as waste. Okay, so depending on how your byproduct is seen, even though it is waste, you realize that another consumer or another industry may use your byproduct. So what you do with byproduct pricing is to set a price for the byproduct to make the main product price more competitive. Okay, so if the main product is expensive, you are also selling the byproduct, and so you can reduce the price of the main product so that that becomes competitive on the market. Okay, so that's the byproduct pricing. Then you have the product bundle pricing. The product bundle pricing combines several products and offers a bundle at a reduced price. Okay, I think this one is self-explanatory. Then we have price adjustment strategies. You notice that for businesses, there are times that you really have to adjust your prices. How do you adjust prices? Okay, the first one we look at is discount. A discount is a straight reduction in price on purchases during a stated period of time or of larger quantities. So you can give discounts. For example, during Christmas, you have people giving discounts on items. Okay. And then you can also give discounts for consumers who buy a particular number or a particular quantity from you. Okay. Then we have segmented pricing. Segmented pricing sells a product or service at two or more prices, where the difference in the price is not based on cost, okay, but can be based on the customer segment. Okay, so you can have different customer segments, and the price for each customer segment for that product will be different. Okay. And then you can have product form pricing, where you have different prices for different versions of the same product. You can also have location-based pricing, where you have different prices for the different locations that you have. So, for example, if you have an outlet in Accra and an outlet in the northern part of Ghana, the price of the item in Accra will not necessarily be the same as the price of that same item in the north. Okay, so that's the location-based pricing. Then you have time-based pricing, which involves different prices for different moments in time. Okay, so there are some items that if you want to buy maybe after Christmas, it's the price is different. If you want to buy during Christmas, the price is also different. There are even items that in the same day, depending on what time of the day you buy it, whether morning, afternoon, or evening, the price would have changed. Okay. We have spoken about the psychological pricing. Okay. Um, The psychological pricing here refers to how your consumer is able to keep the price in his mind, what he's able to remember about the price. So, like we said earlier, instead of 4 cedis, if you have written 3.999 in that customer's mind, the first thing they see is 3.999 instead of rounding it up to 4. Okay, so that's the psychological pricing. So here, reference prices are prices that buyers carry in their minds and refer to when they look at a given product. So 3.99 is approximately 4, but in that person's mind, 3 comes first, and so 3 is what is in the person's mind. Okay. Then you have promotional pricing, where you temporarily price products below the list price and sometimes even below cost to increase short-run sales. Okay, so you can have promotions which are running for a month, for 1 week, for 3 days, for 2 weeks, and all of that. So based on the timeline you have set, you can use a promotional price until the period is over. Then you go back to what you were already doing. There's also geographical pricing, where prices are set for customers located in different parts of the country or world. Okay. So you have the FOB, all right. The FOB is a geographical pricing strategy where goods are placed free on board. Okay. What this means is that the customer pays the freight from the factory to the destination, right? So if you are the manufacturer in another country, once you package your product and you are paid, that is it. The customer pays for everything from your premise, pays the freight charges, everything until it gets to the destination. Okay. Then there's the uniform delivered pricing, which is also a geographical pricing strategy where the company charges the same price, okay, plus freight to all customers. It doesn't matter where they are. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Ghana, you're in Nigeria, you're in the US, you're at Cote d'Ivoire, it's the same price for all of you. Okay. Then there's zone pricing. Here the company sets up 2 or more zones. Okay. And customers within a zone will pay the same total price. And the more distant the zone, the more you pay. Okay. So for example, if a company has divided Ghana into 2, into the southern zone and the northern zone. All those in the southern zone, it doesn't matter your region, you pay the same price. And all those in the northern zone, it doesn't matter where exactly you are, you pay the same price. So that is the zone pricing. Okay. Then there's the base point pricing, which is a strategy where the seller designates some city as a base point and charges all customers the freight cost from that city to the customer. Okay, so there's a base. Like all of you, from my warehouse to this point, it is free. But from that particular point to your destination, you get to pay for. Okay, so that's the base point pricing. Then you have freight absorption pricing, which is where the seller absorbs all or part of the freight charges to get the desired business. So in order to remain in business, some people absorb the freight charges, okay, to get the product to their consumers. Then you have the dynamic pricing, okay? The dynamic pricing is not fixed. You adjust the price continually to meet the characteristics and needs of individual consumers or individual customers and situations. So there's no fixed price. Depending on who approaches you and how they approach you, you state your price for the product. Then you have the international pricing where you charge customers based on the countries or based on their destination countries. Okay. So how do we manage price changes? Whether a price increases or reduces, it can affect the company both positively and negatively. If a price increases, okay, it could be because the cost of production has increased or that the demand for that product has gone up. Okay. And if this happens, there's likely to be a price increase. And when there's a price increase, you notice that customers become dissatisfied. And if you are not careful, they will leave you, they will stop buying from you, and so you will lose your share of the market. You will lose your customers to competitors. Okay. On the other hand, if prices reduce, it could be because you have too much items in stock or you have a lot of products in stock, or that your competitors are pressurizing you to reduce your costs. And so when this happens to the consumer, they will feel that your product is of a lower quality. Okay. And they may not align well with you because why would you reduce prices? They may not understand. Okay. And if you reduce prices, another negative impact is that your profitability will reduce. Okay. So whether there's a price increase or there's a price decrease, it can affect your company positively or negatively. There are some ethical issues to consider when pricing. Okay. There's the price discrimination, that as much as possible, a marketer should charge the same price for the same product. Price discrimination means charging different prices for the same product in different markets. Okay, so as much as possible, a marketer should watch out for price discrimination. Okay, unless it is the company's strategy, there should not be the price discrimination. There should also not be predatory pricing, where you set prices extremely low so that competitors will be out of business. That's also not ethical. Then there's price gouging. Okay, where you raise prices significantly during emergencies. During the COVID pandemic, we saw this. Okay, all of a sudden, people were selling items at some ridiculous prices. Okay, so these are ethical considerations that marketers need to be aware of. There's also the need to be transparent in pricing. People should know why they are paying what for their product. Okay, so there should be transparency in pricing. And then, as much as possible, for vulnerable customers, there should be fair pricing. Okay, there should be fair pricing for vulnerable customers. So, to conclude, pricing is a pivotal element of the marketing mix. It influences revenue and then the brand perception. So, key factors like the cost, the demand, and competition must be considered in pricing decisions. Pricing methods and strategies must align with business objectives and market conditions. And then ethical pricing is essential, very important for customer trust and long-term success. Okay. So these are some discussion questions. Please prepare before you come to class. How can companies balance ethical considerations with profitability in pricing? And then you also to select a company and analyze its pricing strategy. Then you discuss whether it aligns with ethical practices. And then you also suggest improvements for the pricing strategy. And thank you all very much, and see you again in our next discussion. Bye-bye.